Owning a sought-after watch like a Rolex may require months, even years to obtain. However, its value can plummet in mere seconds if you do the things below. We'll talk about mistakes that could harm your timepiece and share helpful advice to keep it safe. From how to wind it correctly to handling it with care, we've got all the information you need. Keep watching to learn essential tips that will ensure your watch stays valuable and in good condition for a long time. Wear watch on less dominant hand. I always suggest wearing your watch on your non-dominant hand. Here's why. If you're right-handed, for example, you're constantly using your right hand for tasks like writing, picking things up, and carrying stuff. This means your right hand is more likely to bump into things, scratch your watch, or even break it accidentally. By wearing your watch on your non-dominant hand, you'll protect it better. Your less used hand is less likely to encounter as many potential hazards, so your watch will stay safer and in better condition. Trust me, you'll thank yourself for it. Service watch. Every 4 to 5 years, one of the big questions people ask when buying a watch is, how often should I service it? The general rule is to service your watch every 4 to 5 years. This means lubricating it, checking the movements, and making sure everything's working smoothly. It's like giving your watch a tune-up, similar to what you do with a car. Some people wear their watches for 10 to 20 years without servicing them, and they still work fine. But it's usually best to stick to the 4 to 5 year recommendation. You can kind of judge for yourself, but it's a good idea to get your watch checked and serviced regularly to keep it in top condition. Always try the watch on your wrist. Everyone's wrist size is different, so when you're buying a watch, it's important to consider how it will fit on your wrist. But here's the thing, watch sizes can feel different even if they're labeled with the same millimeter measurement. For example, a 40mm Panerai might look smaller than a 40mm Submariner because of the design details like the bezel and the crown. Let's take the hublot as another example. A 41mm hublot might seem small, more like a size for women, while the men's size is typically 44mm. But then you look at something like the Yachtmaster 2, also 44mm, and it feels bigger because of the strap or bracelet design. So my advice is to start by choosing a brand you like and try on different sizes within that brand. See how a 40mm feels on your wrist, for example. Once you find a millimeter size you like within a brand, you can generally expect other watches in that size range to fit similarly, but it's always best to try them on to be sure. Never polish your watch. It's important not to polish your watch yourself unless you're an experienced watchmaker or polisher. Brands like Rolex, AP, and Cartier have specific standards for polishing. If someone who doesn't know what they're doing tries to polish your watch, they could mess it up. They might round out the edges too much or take off too much material, which hurts the watch's value. For example, with AP watches, the screws on the bezel are crucial. If the watch gets over-polished, the screws might end up too close to the surface, which isn't good. When you're selling a watch, dealers will give you less money if it's been over-polished because it affects the watch's appearance and value. If your watch has minor scratches, it's okay to lightly polish it yourself with a cloth. But don't do it too often and be extra careful. It's better to leave major polishing to the experts. Only polish your watch every few years when it starts to bother you visually. No too loose watches. Some people prefer wearing their watches very loose, but I don't think it's a good idea. When a watch is too loose on your wrist, you're more likely to accidentally bump it against things, and it might not look right on your wrist. My recommendation is to get a watch that fits you snugly. Leave a little bit of room for comfort in case your wrist swells during the day or after eating. But overall, aim for a watch that fits well and feels comfortable. This way you won't have to worry about it hitting things or getting scratched. Even though most watches are durable and built to last, they're not invincible to scratches or damage, so it's always a good idea to be careful when wearing your watch. Always get box and papers. Having the original box and papers when buying a watch is important, though it's not a deal breaker if they're missing. If you're purchasing from a trustworthy source and the watch doesn't come with papers, you should negotiate a discount. For high-end watches like a Rolex GMT or Hulk, having the papers can increase the value by $1,000 to $2,000. For instance, if the market price for a watch is $17,000 and it lacks the box and papers, you should aim to pay $2,000 less. Conversely, if the watch comes with both box and papers, expect to pay a bit more. This principle applies when you eventually sell the watch as well. Remember to keep the box and papers safe once you've bought the watch. Store them in a secure place like a safe or a file. Losing them can decrease the value of your watch when you decide to sell it. So, always keep them in a safe spot, and don't forget where you've stored them. Purchase from authorized sellers. When you're buying a watch, it's very important to do your homework. Make sure you're getting it from a seller you trust, someone reputable. Don't just buy it from any random place because you could end up getting ripped off easily. Always go to a company or a seller with a good reputation and history. This way, you can be sure they'll check the watch thoroughly for any issues. They'll look at the movements and make sure nothing's been tampered with or replaced with aftermarket parts. If there's anything wrong with the watch, they'll tell you straight up. I've seen too many people get taken advantage of, especially with expensive watches. Imagine spending thousands of dollars on a watch only to find out later that it's not what you thought it was. People will do anything for money, so it's crucial to buy from a trusted source that you can rely on if anything goes wrong. Check the watch condition. When you're buying a watch, especially popular ones like Submariners, Batmans, and Pepsis, always pay close attention to the condition. One of the most critical parts to check is the insert, which is often made of ceramic. These inserts can chip or crack, and fixing them is both expensive and tricky. Usually, only Rolex themselves can handle such repairs. Repair centers rarely have spare parts like bezels lying around. If you do send your watch to Rolex for repairs, they'll likely do a full overhaul, polish it, and address any issues. So, if you come across a watch being sold at a significantly lower price due to a damaged bezel or dial, keep in mind that fixing it will cost you tons of money and time. Repairs could take 3 to 5 months. Do not overwind the watch. One of the most important things to remember about your watch is not to overwind it. Many people make the mistake of trying to wind their watch too much, which can cause damage. When you unscrew the crown and feel it pop out into the first position, that's where you should start winding your watch. Give it about 30 to 40 turns. Once you feel the crown stiffen up and it becomes hard to wind further, stop immediately. Overwinding can break the winding mechanism and damage the movement, which can be expensive to repair. If you accidentally overwind your watch, don't panic. It's fixable, but it's better to avoid this issue altogether by being careful not to wind it too much. Do not lay the watch on the crown. When you're trying on a watch or taking off your own watch, it's essential to be mindful of how you handle it. Some people lay their watches flat or on the crown, but that's not a good idea. When you lay a watch flat, scratches can accumulate on the back casing, making it look worn out and damaging the watch over time. Instead, always lay your watch on its flat side when taking it off. This prevents scratches and keeps the watch in better condition. Avoid laying it on the crown as well, as it could damage the crown and increase the risk of the watch falling over if it wobbles. When choosing a surface to lay your watch on, opt for something smooth and gentle, like a soft cloth or a smooth countertop. So it's best to handle your watch with care to maintain its quality and value for years to come. Are there other tips you would like to add to this list? Comment down your answers, and for more information regarding watches, like and subscribe to Luxury Focus. Thanks for watching.